Why Tucson?
Like, what is it about this city that makes you want to stay and keep trying this?
First of all, like it's a process and a never-ending, like evolving process. That it's not that I have, you know, long-term plans of I want to stay here and like I want to do this. It just kind of like happened more, and now we're seeing where this is going. Like I don't know where is it gonna go. Like Tucson was the right place for this to happen. I don't know if it's gonna be the right place for other things for the next level. There was definitely something right for whatever happened to have happened. Like it was, we were the right people at the right time and we made the right choices and mistakes at the same time, like for Dazed and Confused to kind of like pop up and gain momentum. The one thing that there is, I think that there's energy and space. So these are two things that two like resources, raw resources that you need for a movement, something to happen. And Tucson having its own vibe, like I hear from a lot of people, whether locals or like, people that come through here, that they all like kind of agree on the fact that Tucson has its own energy and vibe. So there was definitely potential energy for dancing culture, like that sort of thing. So, and there wasn't a big major like movement that was sort of channeling this potential energy into something, and in that sense, that's where I come here and I saw that that's energy and space, a gap to be filled with a movement, something that could give this energy its own path. From what I've understood, there's the actually down here, this area like was like very pivotal in the whole evolution of the rave scene, kind of like in the 90s. I've heard a lot of stories about desert raves and things like that. It seems like this place was the place to be. There was a moment that the scene was thriving. It was more very underground, very like illegal in a way, but and then there's been clubs that were sort of working, like warehouse parties and things like that, even downtown Tucson but then like at some point the whole scene declined, like and then the whole EDM phenomena like gained momentum statewide, and so kind of that's what was happening when I came here. There wasn't that much going on as far as like house techno, except for like EDM stuff. Mm-hmm. And the few things that have happened like in the years before had already kind of like faded away. They were like, I talked to people that have done that were involved in that, and they all told me that it was hard, like they had their moments, but then there was never anything like stable, and it's in the DNA of this place, I guess, that it's hard for something to like just thrive and then become stable because of the nature of this place. It's a place where people come and then move on and and go somewhere else. Few people end up staying here after school or a temporary job or whatever. So maybe that has something to do with a decent like house and techno electronic movement that's like stable. And how can you have a dance like scene if there's no dance club? There's nothing like that. So no, I don't know. I can't see why is that. There's like, there's a major like club downtown for sure. Like but it's a bar, it's a club, it's a venue. Like but there's nothing like a nightclub where like dance music is played and DJs come through and like there's nothing like that. You have all these like small pockets of like few hustlers trying to like make something happen, and then they're not backed up by people with resources that invest in them and give them the proper spaces or like the proper so it all just ends up being like little bubbles of energy that burst, and then something new comes up. The taste in this town is not mature yet. People here are either too young to understand like what dance music is and even to have experienced it. Like, let's face it, like if you've lived all your life in the soul state of Arizona, then chances are you've never been to an actual club. Almost everywhere in Europe, I would say, like England, Spain, France, Germany of all, and then Italy, the scene is very well established. The house, techno, they're the engine of the dance music scene. Like, that just it's always been like that ever since the late 80s or like so the scene is thriving. It's always been like, matter of fact, with social media, everything is just like happening faster, quicker, on a larger scale. Dance scene, like, it's become, how would I use the mainstream or mainstream, like dance music is just mainstream over there. And when I say dance music, I mean house, techno, like electronic. It's just what people, if you go to a club, chances are that's what you're going to dance to. Like, back home is just everywhere you go, there's a club, and they're playing house or techno there, like, mostly. Okay, there's also like commercial stuff, like pop music and things like that, but whereas here it's like something you have to go out of your way to find. It's just something almost alternative. That's the main difference for me. Like, it's like coming from a place where, like, literally, even the people that do not go to clubs, even the people that are like so far removed from like the dance scene, have never set foot in a club in their whole life. Those same people that would think that clubs are like those scary places where people like do weird drugs. Like, if I ask those people back home who Carl Cox is or Sven Vath, they would still know it. At least I've heard. Here, it's like even people who are like call themselves DJs or like are starting to get excited about electronic music have no idea who these people, and when I say these people, I mean godfathers of the whole movement are. So that for me is like the biggest difference, and that really like hurts me sometimes, like coming from a place where like something is just part of the culture. It's just there. Like, you don't have to question it or talk about it. It's taken from granted. Whereas here, it's a constant fight, to bring to the attention something that it's like hidden or really underground, like alternative, like kind of thing, which is, that's the main difference, I think. Deep down, like, the bottom line for me is I love this music so much that if I come to a place where like, or if I meet someone that does not know about it, I will try everything that I can to like show it to him or to her. On a larger scale, like, the city like doesn't have a place where you can hear this music. And by hear, I don't mean just like press play and hear on it. You have to experience it. My instinct was like, let's create a place where we can play the music that we love, and we can give the people the chance to see if they like this music by experiencing it. We're gonna give this experience to people, see if they actually like this music. Because guess what? Everywhere, I mean, in many places in the world, this music is the music that people love, and the music that makes their heart beat. Like, so why can't it be here? Yeah, it's not that everything is good back home. Like you don't know like how many kids back home like love and this music and like would love to have the opportunity to play, but they don't, because the scene is so saturated that like they don't get a place where they can play. They don't have a crowd. They don't have gigs. Everything is run by like the bigger sharks and things like that, especially now that with the crisis and all that. But here, space, energy. All it takes is some mad work. It's just a matter of time. And I can sense already like this happening. Even here, I think one of the reasons that why we've been, sort of successful is because the word is getting out. Like even out here in the desert, that house music is cool. It's always been cool. It's always been about the heart of club culture and dance culture, and like this stuff doesn't happen because you want it to happen. It happens because you find other people that are like you, and together with sharing the same love for the music, you construct, you build, you become a phenomenon, a cultural phenomenon. So I met interesting people that somehow were the same place where I was. Like they liked the same music that I liked, and they all felt that this city needed something like that. And so we made it happen together. From the get-go, like I've always had one goal, let's say, if there were any, that makes sense with why we're doing this. We're doing this because we love this music. We called ourselves the shamans in a way, like, because we're the catalyst of this reaction. Like people, becoming familiar with the music that not necessarily was here. People taking part in rituals that were not necessarily like here. So the goal of this for me would be being able to bring here, to host the bigger shamans, the real ones, the ones that have been doing it for before us, like in the bigger scheme of things. Like we're just like small time, like dreamers and like hustlers. But if I were able to bring here, I don't know, like one of those DJs that for me are like gods, like, and icons, like I could call myself happy. That's the ultimate goal. Wherever I am, I always try to connect with people that like the same music, or like are interested in the club scene and whatnot. So I just that's what you do. You're out there in a different place. You're on your own. However, I was in Tallahassee. Like that wasn't. It wasn't big enough, and I think the moment wasn't ready in time for something bigger to happen. The movement always there wasn't space and energy as much as I found when I came here, when I would come here in Tucson, Arizona later down the road. I think that it's beautiful for someone like me or like us who love this music, is that wherever you are, you will find a community. you know, because you love the music so much, you will overcome the difficulties, you know, not knowing, you know, going to a club by yourself, it's not the best thing in the world, you know. I went through the struggle, I met people, I shared the passion, and at some point I was, you know, I was ready, you know, the moment was right to make something happen. It's everything happens very organically. It's not like when you build, you know, like, you know, a business or like something like that, where like, oh, I need to do this job, I need a team, I'm gonna need a guy who do this, a guy, like it, when you're doing parties, events, like it kind of happens backward. Like you have someone or something that's like happening, and it draws attention, and like people start like spiraling, energy starts like just like centering around a core, a pole. Like Ben was, you know, the key component. Like Ben and I, like together, were, you know, the center of it. And that's how the team kind of like, you know, rose, like from you know, from nothing, like from this love. Basically at the center there was the love and passion for music that Ben and I shared, and this need to like showcase it to the outer world, like the Tucson world. Ben brought Ashley with him. I brought my friend Juan with me, and like we started this thing, and then people start, you know, participating, and then in what, 2 months we find ourselves with, you know, 5, 6, 10, like almost 10 like people. They're like actively participating and contributing to the whole cause, not necessarily because they share this like, you know, incredible love for the music, but just because, you know, they felt that this movement was based off of, you know, love, whether music, whether friendship, whether it's like life in general. Like that's what we were bringing forward. And so people just like stuck. We all found ourselves like glued to each other, and this like, you know, ball of energy that was vibrating and reverberating, like sending positive vibes throughout the entire, like, you know, night life scene and of the city. Oh, well, that was a very interesting time, because like it was right about like this time back exactly a year ago, like early January, and like we nothing. We just knew that we wanted to have a party. Like we didn't really know like what we were gonna do. We knew that we were out there like trying to make something cool happen, and trying to find a space that could, you know, hold our energy. Like we said, why not, like do it, and everything happened in a very unconventional way. Like the whole who was there remembers, like you know, I just can't get into the details. Like it was just very random, very casual. We had this like crazy like underground like party, and it popped off. Like everybody helped. It and it was great. I played this set and I will never forget. But the day after that, like right the day after, we had a Friday night, there was this big, you know, crazy like unconventional party. And then the day after, Saturday night, we had our, you know, first, you know, blown up like party at Soul Culture. Like that was basically the first of a series that will become our flagship event called Days Till Dawn, and that were all held at Solar Culture, that then would become our home. Crazy night. So it was like this crazy weekend that saw like 2 events back to back, you know, branded Dazed, you know, Dazed and Confused, the smiley face. At that point was the very first moment that kind of like we saw a smiley face up in the sky, like kind of like Batman, you know, the call kind of thing. You know, it was that was the moment. Like we all felt, okay, this is it. Like we have something going on, and it was unexpected and cool at the same time. Once you have this, the phase where like you're spontaneous and you have some sort of positive feedback, and then you try to reiterate the phenomenon, you become serialized, and you have to face, the problem of, okay, I was doing that because I wanted to do it and it was cool and I just did it. Now, what keeps me doing it? And how do I maintain the freshness of something that was spontaneous and successful? How do I keep that? That's a problem like everyone faces. Like, I think especially like in art, music, anything like that, or like the second book writing crisis. Like, you write a book and it's you're successful because you wanted to write a book, but then you want to write a book, you want to write another book just because you want to write another book. Then what do you write? You know what I'm saying? Like, first you just wanted to just say something and the book just kind of happened. But then after that, that's the problem. Like after we've had our, incipit that was, just spontaneous and cool and like fresh and casual and like, a force of nature. Then we're like, okay, we're gonna keep going, but how? That was the main problem. It is the main problem. We're not doing this for business. We're not doing this for money. It's not our job. So life happens, and you can only sacrifice so much of your time and effort and money to something. And when the initial like strength, like burst of energy kind of like fades and goes down, then what's gonna keep you going? That's the main challenge. Kind of like this was, how would you say, like a very cathartic experience, that especially for Shell, because Ben already had been exposed to the music and everything, so he was already like advanced, and it was just a matter of time before he would experience something like this, more or less. And now he's where he needs to be, in Europe, like experiencing like this culture at its best. But someone like Shelby, who was like completely like clean slate, this for her was a moment of truth, an epiphany. Like, she saw something for the very first time that she had never like experienced before. Now she's, she needs to go and see like those places and listen to those artists that will fortify and structure her background. Once you've been exposed to the sparkle, then you need to move on and go. Being like almost 31 years old, having been exposed to this music for like 20 years, like, because I've been listening to like cassettes since I was in elementary school. Like, it's crazy, like how back home, like, if you want, it's there if you want it, from day one. So I think those, Ben and Shelby, in different moments, to different extent, this was their like primer. Like, Dazed was in a way their primer, more so for Shelby, I would say, for them to like go out and now like experience like dance music at its full potential, like with an awareness.
What is it like to have a day job and then try to put all of your free time towards your passion? Like, what kind of stress is that? What kind of juggle is that? Like, what does that do to you as a person? Like, because this is for across the board. This is something I've struggled with for years. Like, I don't know if there's an answer to this, but I want to know your opinion because it's so important to so many people, especially nowadays in the U.S. when like things are getting expensive. Minimum wage is going up, but so is everything else. You can't afford to live most places in the U.S. unless you're fucking, making $50,000 to $60,000 a year. Like, that's the truth in the matter. So when it comes to this kind of thing, like, what's your opinion on all that juggling and passion and work and the stress? Like, what's that like?
It's tough. It's hard. I feel like we all struggle with it because none of us is endowed with a lot of resources, so we all have to juggle, like day job or like I don't know, school and passion. It's a balance. It's a balance that you have to find. Sometimes one of the things pull too strong one way or the other. You just gotta find that middle ground where like you know that you're succeeding in both. Sometimes you will feel like you're sacrificing too much. Sometimes you feel like you have to give back to that other side. That's you're the only one who knows. Like if you're doing what you're supposed to do and doing what you want to do at the same time, the way you should be doing it. We all have our different mission and thing, but if there's one thing I'm sure, the only thing I know is that all of us who are so passionate about something that we're trying to do it on the side and we sacrifice time like to it, like we all wish that was our one and only. And in a way, we're all trying to shift, hoping, dreaming that one day that passion, that thing that you've always called hobby could become your job, your source of income and stability and whatnot. That's the dream. Only a few people can achieve that, and that's what we're hoping to reach.
This is like life. You're just kind of just rolling with every day.
It's hardest. That's probably the hardest question you've asked me tonight. Like, what do you want from life? That's basically what you were asking, and we all know how tough it is to answer that question for some of us who don't know what they want. So my personal life, that's probably like harder to figure out. Job, what I want to do, what I don't want to do, where do I want to be, who I want to be with. Like all these questions it's almost impossible to answer to those right now. But if I were to stay in the music realm, I do know what my dream is, and my dream is, it always has, making a record that's important, that's I'm proud of, and that people will hear everywhere.